Hello everybody and good morning. Welcome to the Top Producer Show. So our mission is to educate, equip, and train servant leaders. Our vision is to create financially independent achievers, and our purpose is to help people grow. And right now we are on chapter 2 of If You're Not First, You're Last by Grant Cardone. And chapter 2 is Power Base Reactivation. So before we go into that, we're going to go ahead and invite some people onto here. There we go. I think we got it.
All right, guys. Power Base Reactivation. This chapter is actually kind of funny. We're going over the book by Grant Cardone, If You're Not First, You're Last. I'm going to start you on the path of basically advance and conquer, but with an asset that I know you already have, which is the power base. Unfortunately, people deny that they even think that they have a power base to start from. They truly believe that they have nothing to start with at all, which is not true. It says everyone has a power base. We simply don't all acknowledge it and utilize it. Instead, we go backwards trying to build a business in place where we are and where we don't have any power with people we don't know. This is the most difficult way to launch a company with people you don't know. Why? Because people do business with people they know, people they like, and people they trust. People they know, people they like, and people they trust. People spend money with people they know, people they like, and people they trust. Now, the unfortunate part is some people have done horrible things to their network, meaning the network of people they know. You know, they might have a past, they might have a background, they might have been in 65 things. So that all adds to the complication of using a power base. Everyone has an existing power base. He goes on. The people you know, friends, family, relatives, acquaintances, schoolmates, past employees, existing employees, even your enemies are all part of it. A power base doesn't remain the same size throughout your career. It will grow or cease to grow depending on the amount of attention you give it. To cultivate and increase the quality of your power base, simply start with what you have. Direct sales and multi-level marketing, network marketing companies are very effective at this because they depend, he says solely, he has no idea that they do leads, which is interesting, but this was 2010, so he wasn't really involved at that point, meaning having a lot of influence inside of direct sales. But he says they depend almost solely on utilizing and optimizing people's power bases, combined with dedication and relentless contact of these power bases with great producers. You basically can create a corporation with huge profits in any economy. And he goes on to list a bunch of companies. He's like Amway, Nu Skin, Herbalife, Mary Kay, Market America, Kagan Water. We can go on and on. The industry is actually pretty big. Dave Roeder's here. What's up, sir? Are just a few of the examples of companies whose entire business model is built upon the idea of everyone has a power base. Success depends on how effective those power bases are informed about the company's product. Meaning, if you can't educate the people around you on what you're doing, and you're just trying to sell them, they're not going to help you. If you're just going into, I need money, me, which honestly is how most people do it, or taught how to do it. And I say taught how to do it. Not all companies have horrible training, but most of them do. I mean, I'll be real honest. But there are some really good people in the business that teach amazing techniques. And what I mean by techniques is the idea that we're going to educate people and not just sell them. The idea that we're going to inform them what we do, so if they do run into the right person, they can refer them to us, versus you need to buy my shit, which is normally what most people try to do. Those who make it to these firms' top levels are not great salespeople. They're basically great at power-based reactivation. It would be better for him to say, build off of the people you know, referrals. But he had to use some fancy ass word. That's why so many business, and I didn't write the book, and he did, so obviously he gets all the credit for that. So, this is why businesses focus on intending on customer satisfaction, knowing how much word of mouth advertising generates for future sales. Corporations tend to fail when they rely too heavily on advertising and marketing campaigns, commit to and claim to commit to customer satisfaction without actually doing it, and have no power base to start with. Meaning, raving fans. You have the people that are in your corner rooting for you. Now, here's the problem. Most people, if you tell them your problem, most people don't care. I mean, that's to start out with. I would say the majority of the people don't care. The people who do take the time to listen about your problems are glad you have them. Why? Because it makes them feel better. I mean, that's reality. Most people don't care, and the other people are glad you have problems. So sharing your problems with people doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. But what does is sharing where you're going, what you're doing, and asking for help. And that's really what he's talking about, is asking for help through the network that you already have. John Maxwell, in his books, specifically Winning with People, and then he goes on to ask this question. Great leaders ask great questions. In that book, he says, do you know what the most important question that I've ever learned to ask? I mean, you would think a guy that's made, tens of millions of dollars, that has 7 different companies, that has, right now I think his coaching network is over 30,000 people. You would think that guy would have some good knowledge on how to build a network of people. But the best question that he's ever been asked pertains to exactly what this is talking about. When he meets somebody, he says, who do you know that I should know that you could introduce me to? Meaning, you now know what I do and how I do it. I'm looking to network with other people in my field who are successful. Who do you know that I should know that you can introduce me to? He said that is the most important question he's ever learned to ask. So that's a good one. That's why so many businesses focus on the wrong things. Okay, when you effectively activate your power base, you'll find that people who are qualified to purchase your products and motivated to tell others about them. You have to be cost effective in generating opportunity for purchasing your product or service during slow economy times. By the way, direct sales and network marketing works better when there's blood on the streets. It works better when unemployment's high. It works better when interest rates are through the roof. Why? Because when you can't invest in real estate, when you can't invest in the stock market because it's bullshit usually, when you can't invest in Bitcoin or whatever the hell else, there's always going to be some flash in the pan fancy, and I'm not saying crypto's going anywhere, but crypto has been that thing that everybody's like, oh, crypto. And people have no idea what they're doing. I've had friends make millions, and I've also had friends lose. Basically, somebody financed their house, took an equity line out, thought they knew what they were doing, bought a bunch of stuff, lost it all, and went bankrupt and lost their house. So I'm just saying, you have to know what you're doing. But during times of horrible economic times, network marketing does very, very well. In fact, the largest growth of organizations happens during an economic downturn like we're heading into. You have to be cost effective in generating opportunities for purchasing product. While big corporations may be able to afford huge advertising budgets, individuals typically cannot. And while advertising can hit more people faster, it's less personal and less effective. To that end, your power base is the single most effective way in generating immediate business. Traditional advertising has become the dependency of the 21st century, whereby the company's ability to generate business solely with mass advertising to people you don't know who may not be qualified or even interested in your product. The majority of advertising budgets are lost to these people who just don't care, right? Even for large corporations, during periods of economic contraction, when you truly have to watch every dollar you spent and every penny you spent. Although reactivating your power base is very cost effective, it does require some degree of effort, a large degree of effort, he goes on to say. Don't worry when you begin whether these people are qualified or even interested in buying your product. Just make your list, then contact it. Does that sound like direct sales and network marketing? The idea is, and he doesn't go into a lot of detail of this, but the whole idea is the majority of the people are not going to buy your product. The majority of the people are not going to join your team. The majority of the people don't care, right? They don't care. But once you inform them, and if you contact them the right way and you present to them the right way, they can and will do what? They can and will refer you. But you have to go after it, and he talks about this here in a second. He says, remember that people you know also know others in turn who may be more appropriate for the products you have. They may be more, for the prospect. Chances here, what's up, sir? You want to reactivate every possible contact you have to get your power base to start working for you. I kind of looked at it like this. I mean, this is the idea of compounding math. If you talk to 2 people a day, there's 365 days in a year. So let's just call it 300 days because you're going to take weekends, you're going to take holidays, you're going to take, you're going to forget, right? 300 days. If you could really contact 2 people 300 days a year and not contact them, meaning you're going to send them a website, hey, go look at my thing. I mean, actually fucking talk to people. Have a conversation. Educate them. Hey, here is what I do. Do you know what I do? I ask that to people all the time. Hey, have you heard of this company? And people are like, no, not really. I said, well, obviously, if you haven't heard of them, you don't know what they do. Let me do this. Let me kind of run through what we do and how we do it. So if you do run into the right person, you can refer them to me. And every single person I've ever said that to is like, sure, okay. Yeah, what do you do? Here's what I've found doesn't work. Oh man, I got into this really great business and I got this mentor. If you're using the words mentor in your conversation, what's happened is you're blind to the industry. Jordan's here, hello. You're blind to the industry, and here's what you're blinded by. You're blinded by the lingo inside the industry, and you're using lingo inside the industry with people outside the industry. That is the equivalent of all of your friends speaking English and you going in and contacting them in Spanish. They're going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Your mentor? Oh yeah, I got this business mentor and it's amazing. What are you, a fucking Jedi Knight? Like, it doesn't make any sense to a person that isn't around the industry. Now, you can say inside the industry, meaning there's 2 languages. There's inside lingo, like there's inside lingo in every job, right? Go get me the TPS reports. In the military, there's like will call and ASAP, and they have all these initials for everything. If you know anybody in the military, this will make sense to you. It's like a totally different language. There's language like that inside of direct sales and network marketing. The problem is people are using it on the outside of network marketing, and that's why you look crazy. But nobody's talking about that. They're like, I just don't understand why I can't, break through with what I'm doing, and I can't, affect people. It's because you're using the wrong language, meaning you're using the language of network marketing or the language of the entrepreneur with people who are employees. And they're like, it's like talking Spanish to them. And they're like, yeah, okay. And that's why they look at you weird when you say stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Or they have that like blank stare like, what? So he goes on to say, worse yet, your power base can sit unattended and ignored. So he's like, most people have this network that they're just neglecting and not using. And he said, first off, you will have to be able to contact them. That's going to take time and effort. Start getting in touch with friends, family, and relatives and past employers and make a genuine interest in them. That's where people miss it. That's where people are like, okay, I'm in business. I got to sell everybody. And then they pick up the phone to people they haven't seen in 10 years and they're like, oh my God, I found the best. And they're reading from some fucking ugly script that doesn't make sense anyway. Oh my gosh, I got this business mentor and we've got this amazing business opportunity. And then they go on and you're like, what? Okay, yeah, okay. You want me to get on a Zoom with somebody that I don't know? Okay, yeah. And then, I don't understand why nobody shows up. Well, because that's fucking weird. That doesn't make any sense. Instead of, hey, we haven't talked in 10 years. Hey, we need to catch up. Like, what's going on? And really, and the problem is most people aren't taught to take a genuine interest in other people. Most people are taught to take from people, right? That's what most people are taught to take from people. Hey, he has, a network that I need to go talk to, so I want his network. It's all me, versus how are you? And it's just unfortunate, and I've done all this wrong. Dave's like, this is hitting home. I'm like, the reason I'm so strong about some of these, principles is because I've done all this shit the wrong way, which is unfortunate because I burn up my network. I looked at everybody as you are a contact for me versus what can I do to help you, right? If you look at everybody as what can I do to help you, who can I connect you to? I heard Bob Berg. Bob Berg is a very famous author, networker, speaker, and Bob Berg wrote a couple great books, Endless Referrals. And he described this, and this was like 25 years ago that I heard this. He described this idea of a wheel. And he goes, have you ever seen and he was using a bicycle wheel, but have you ever seen one of those wheels on one of those cars that have like all the spokes out? Usually they're gold or silver rims. And they're spoked rims. I think that's what they're called, or spoked wheels. And they're usually on older classic cars. Some people put them on new cars, which, whatever your preference is, right? But spoked wheels. And he says, you realize that there's a center to that wheel where all of those spokes that go out to the actual wheel, there's a center. And that center is who you want to be. You want to be that center with 1,000 connections going out and everybody knowing through you. So the idea here is you might know somebody on the other side of town that you can introduce them to. You might have a connection for somebody. So I get asked a lot to make connections for people. People are like, hey, I'm looking for a contractor. Hey, I'm looking for this. I got a call the other day on medical stuff, And what I mean by medical stuff is somebody's like, hey, I just found out, I have high cholesterol. My blood pressure has gone up. What are alternatives to that? Brandy and I are holistic doctors, so we get asked for like referrals. What would you guess? What would you? And again, I'm like, you know what? I know a little bit about this, but the best person to ask is so and so. So let me make that connection again from one side of the wheel through me to the other. So that's how people know each other. Let me connect you. Let me connect you through a 3-way text. It's amazing how often I do that. Have another friend looking to get a house. I was like, have you gotten pre-qualified yet? No. Let me make a connection for you. I did a 3-way text. They're connected through me. I have another friend on Facebook that I saw, and it's about reaching out to people appropriately. I have a friend that's like, hey, our CPA and accountant is retiring. We need somebody new. I reached out on Facebook. I actually reached out to her husband, who forgot to give her the message, but then I reached back out to her, and she's like, yeah, he never told me. That is a bad connection, but, it happens, right? Dave, sorry. And basically got the connection, and he's like, dude, I just haven't gotten to it yet. That's what happened. So I ended up connecting the two of them, and I watched, because I did it through 3-way text, I watched the connection happen. But now they're connected through me. The purpose isn't to be the center of attention. It's to be the center of connections. That's the idea. That'd be a good book, wouldn't it? The Center of Connections. I should write that one along with the other 50 ones that I want to write. Okay. Start getting in touch with friends. We talked about that. Do not rely solely on email. Don't just email people. Or snail mail, whatever you want to call it. Without first getting in touch with them on the phone or personal visit first. A phone call is more valuable than mail or email. And it should be followed up with an email. Now, here's the thing. If you want to speed things up, it's fine to send that email and be like, hey, I'm going through my old emails. I'm getting in touch with everybody. When you get a chance, give me a call. I have a question for you. That's it. I have a question for you. When you make things simple, but you don't tell people what you want, it's amazing how people will reach out and be like, what do you want? What's going on? What question do you have for me? Like, I did this one day. I was like, just text 10 people and say, hey, I got a question for you. Give me a call. You will have like 8 people reach back out to you and say, hey, what do you want? I forgot I sent the messages one time. And they're like, what do you want? I'm like, nothing. What do you want? They're like, no, you text me and ask me, you have a question for me. I was like, oh, I do. Oh, yeah, I do. I was like, are you free at 5 o'clock? So we can talk. And then we did. During all economics, good, bad, and indifferent, but especially during contractions, contacts and relationships are everything. If you've heard the saying, it's not who you know, but what you know, or it's not what you know, but who you know, then you know exactly what we're talking about and that this is true. You are short on people, not short on money. And the people you either know have money or know the people who you want to know that have money. Remember, people like buying and doing business with people they know, like, and trust. Which is why going after complete strangers takes so much longer and takes so many more people to go through. And honestly, it's going to take going through a lot of people either way. Jeffrey Richard Ross is here. What's up, sir? Remember, people like to buy and do business with people they know, like, and trust. During times when money is tight, they're more likely to spend, if they do so at all, on products and services from those people they know, like, and trust. You may have had an experience of running into an old friend and your shock and disappointment is to discover they just bought the product. I just talked about this last night. I said, eventually, we're going to get a hold of everybody, and you're going to have somebody in your network, so one of your friends, one of your family members, one of your coworkers, one of your church members, one of your synagogue members, whatever you go to, they're going to come back and say, hey, guess what? I just got in this great business, and you should, because you didn't talk to them. And you're going to feel horrible. Now, what's worse than finding out somebody gets in one of the businesses that you're in, and is when they start succeeding. Like, I actually had to sit in a meeting and watch somebody climb the chart, in front of me. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was a person I felt was above my level, which probably was true at the time. I was like 17, 18, and one of the physicians, a doctor that we knew, got into the business through somebody else. Now, he got in through a hospital administrator who was also a doctor and an administrator, and he was over like 3 or 4 hospitals. I mean, he has he had kind of like the business background. He had an MBA in business management, and he was a doctor. So he had some education way beyond what I did. He had some influence way beyond what I did. But one of the family doctors that we all knew got in the business that I was in and showed up at the meeting and climbed to the top of the chart. Like, that was painful because I never talked to him. I mean, and even if I did, I don't think he probably would have gotten in. But just the fact that I could have talked to him, that there was a possibility and a chance, because obviously he showed up in the room. This process of reactivating your power base might feel like it's going to the gym after blowing off exercise for 6 years. And it's true. That's usually what it's like. It's new again, and you're using muscles you haven't used in a long time, just like working out. Most people have never used this. Understand, Grant came from a sales background. Most people don't have that network, but they also don't have that skill set. So he goes into the call. He's like, so let's talk exactly about how we're going to reactivate this power base. How to make a call. So he kind of does a mock one. He's like, John, this is Grant Cardone here. Just thinking about you and wanted to catch up. How are things? What are you doing now? Tell me about your family, house, jobs. So he's basically going through something called FORM, Family, Occupation, Recreation, the message. FORM. If you learn how to do this one thing, if you learn how to ask these questions, FORM, I actually put together something called, it was Agent Associate Profile. It's just a profile. I put together this profile page, and this profile page has on it the exact questions to ask in the exact order to build the most rapport the fastest with people. I learned to do this a long time ago, and I did it out of habit because I figured it out. And I have a weird, I guess, unique sense of being able to memorize shit really, really, really fast. Like, I can read something and turn around and teach it. I don't know. It's just weird. But I realized other people can't do that, unfortunately. So what I did is I took all of what I asked and I wrote it down. I put it into a one-page form. And what it does is it starts out with F, and it starts out with family, and asks all those questions. Hey, where are you from? You know, where are you from? Where's your family from? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Who, you know, who's in your family? You know, who were you closest to? Ask all those questions. Then it goes on to occupation. What was your first job? What's your current job? What's your background? All these different things about work, right? So that way you know about work. Then it goes into recreation. Hey, what do you do when, you know, what do you do for fun? What do you do, you know, what would you do if time and money weren't an issue? Like, if you could knock all that out, like, would you do something philanthropy? Would you do something giving? Would you do something spiritual? Would you take a trip? Would you meditate? Would you buy a horse? What would you do? And then it goes into the message. The message is, you know, whatever you actually want to talk to them about. And usually that comes into a coaching thing. You know, hey, do I have your permission to ask you some very specific questions, kind of about where you're going in life, how things are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, where do you want to be in 2 to 5 years, what is your greatest motive, like what motivates you, and then what is the most important thing in your life right now. So those 5 questions at the end pertain to the message of where they're going, and then be like, okay, cool, let's talk about, you know, getting going. But what I did is, if you separate it, form is at the top, the specific 5 questions are at the bottom. It basically learns to build rapport very, very quickly. Most of the time, I can sit down with somebody, you know them, I don't. I can sit down in 45 minutes and know more about them in 45 minutes, and the funny thing is they have more connection with me than with you, just by doing this. So it is an amazing, amazing way of building rapport, and it's just questions. Because it's better to be interested than interesting. Meaning, it's better to ask questions and listen than it is to tell people about who you are. You just don't get as far. That's just human nature. That's how it works. So he goes on to say, this usually prompts your contact to ask you what you're doing at which point. You tell them, emphasize how to exercise. Do not, under any circumstances, mention or discuss or get involved with a conversation about how bad the economy is. No one needs more bad news. No one needs more bad news. Take the time during the call to collect data and update your file. So you can say, hey, I'm just updating my database. You know, do you have a new email? You know, what's the email you use? You know, Facebook, that's, you know, one. Usually you're already connected to people if you're calling them at this point. Phone numbers, family, employment. What are you doing now? Second part of the call is the purpose is to set a time to meet in person. Okay, cool. Hey, we haven't seen each other forever. Let's go grab lunch. Let's go grab tacos. Let's, you know, I mean, whatever it is. Let's go grab coffee. It just depends. Like, if you don't have a lot of money, and a lot of people don't have a lot of money when they start out, go get coffee with people. And here's the thing. Drink your coffee, you know, that's $1, you know, because you can get $1 coffee in a lot of places. Get $1 coffee, but buy their coffee instead. Don't worry about you buying your coffee. Buy their coffee. It's called the law of influence. The law of influence says, if I pay for something, you automatically want to reciprocate in some way. The law of reciprocity, I think is what it is. The law of reciprocity says, if you pay for something for me, I turn around and basically want to pay you back somehow. Hey, you don't have to buy me anything. You just have to listen. And people are like, hey, no problem. And they feel obligated to, which is unbelievable. Let's catch up over lunch, over coffee, whatever works. Again, your purpose here is not to sell, but simply to make connections, reestablish a bond, collect data, and set up the meeting. The phone call is to set up the meeting. The phone call is not to present. The phone call is not to give them everything. Now, if they live across the country, it is. Hey, we could do that. Olga's here. What's up, sir? Follow up your reactivation call by sending a letter, note, email the same day. Do not wait. Hey, it was great to talk to you. Build the habit of doing everything you can now to establish discipline of taking massive action. Great speaking with you. I look forward to catching up in person. This call and a mail will then be followed up with a personal visit. Whether or not you commit to a future meeting date, either way, both parties meet, put it on your calendar, remind people about dates, calendars. Remember, these people are people you already know. They will probably want to reactivate as well. Always be the person that calls out, hey, it's my fault, I haven't stayed in contact. As soon as you say that, they're like, well, actually, shit, it's actually my fault, I haven't stayed in contact. And they feel bad. Now, if you're the first one to reach out, be the first one to say, hey, look, we should have stayed in touch and I totally screwed it up. I need to catch up. What's going on? Here's the thing. Here are a few important do nots to keep in mind. Do not qualify. It says do not qualify the list, meaning don't weed people out before you talk to them. Do not worry about what these people are going to think because you haven't contacted them for some time. So a lot of people feel so bad. They're like, oh my God, I can't call them because I was supposed to call them and I didn't call them and it's been 5 years and oh my God, they've had kids and I forgot to tell them about their kids. Here's the thing. Most people don't care. They don't care. And we repeated that several times here. Most people don't care. Do not be reasonable with this action, meaning, don't try to piecemeal it. Do as much as you can, as long as you can. Do not try to make this a sales call. However, do not forget that you are selling, and merely the action of reactivating means that you're selling, but you're not trying to close them, is what he's saying. Do not judge the results of the contact. Just because you talked to somebody and it didn't go well, that doesn't mean anything. There's hundreds of more people. Your goal is to do everything possible to reconnect with your people. Here's the ultimate goal. The idea is you've built a database. You're going to build a database of people. If you want to build any direct sales, any network marketing, any referral-based business, insurance, real estate, financial services, lawn mowing, hair cutting, massage, Reiki. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If you're in any of those businesses, Dave Robertson, what's up? If you're in any of those businesses, you want to build a database of people who know who you are and what you do. So if you do run into the right person, they can refer you. That's what you want to do. And here's the thing. 99.9% of business people do not fucking do it. Why? Well, that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of discipline. Oh, I never got around to it. I never did this. And I'm raising both hands. I built several of my businesses without building a database. And you know what happened? Crash. Why? Because the database is required for the business to come in over and over and over again. Meanwhile, I was just so busy running to the next appointment, I didn't take the time when I got home to actually structure what I was doing, so that way I had a plan the next day. Here was my plan the next day. Scramble. Here was my plan the next day. Oh my God, I gotta eat. Go. Who can I talk to? Okay, I got another job. Okay, I'm good. And then crash again. I didn't do it in real estate. Stupid. I qualified all these freaking people, never put them in a database, never followed up, never be like, hey, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Never did it, never. But I finally figured it out. Actually, it was through another company that I worked with that they talked about doing this, and they talked about building this huge database, and they're like, do you know you could make $1 million in one day? In fact, you could make $1 million in 1 hour. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. What are you talking about? They said, look, if your database was big enough and you had the right product or service, and you send a message to these people and say, look, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. We've stayed in touch for years. I just wanted to let you be the first one to know that this is it is possible to do that. Now, I do have somebody that I know online that did do $728,000 in income, $728,000 in income in his first 28 days in his new business. That's how fast. That's fast. He went on to make $3 million that year. He went on to make $5 million the next year, and he did it by emailing. Now, what's interesting is he emailed shopped with him, bought with him, been involved in something with him prior, and 156 people went all in at about $5,700 because that was their price point of their product line. It was an affiliate product. $5,700 times 154 people, about 700 grand his first, well, just over 700 grand his first month. His first month. It was stupid after that. Like he had some really good months. If you make $5 million a year, that's $400,000 a month. That's 100 grand a week. That's you're rocking, right? 52 weeks. It's pretty good. So wrapping this up like a burrito so we can get out of here. Your goal is to do everything possible to reconnect with your people you know, connect with others, network, and get people talking and thinking about you again. The idea is massive exposure. Attention is better than no attention. Some attention is better than no attention. Bad attention is better than no attention. If you look at the press, the more people you know, the more likely you'll survive and succeed during a contraction. The more people you know and the more people you contact and the more people you do this right with, the more likely that you will be able to conquer and accelerate what you're doing. Refill your calendar with appointments with everyone you can think is possible. Your power base. What are the types of people? What type of people would be in your power base? So you're basically, who are you going to talk to? Why would these people be the easiest to contact? What is meant by you are short on people, not short on money? What are the 5 don'ts? And then write down a list of the people in your power base. So he's like, build your network. And here's the thing. You can start building your network with 5 people a day. You can build it with 1 person a day. You can sit down and write down all the contacts. It's amazing if you really open up Facebook and look through, not the people who you see all the time, because they've kind of built it now where you don't see the majority of the people. But if you actually look through and look at all the connections you have, I guarantee you're going to come up with 100 or 200 people you haven't talked to. If there's 200 or 300 people you haven't talked to, just depending on the business you're in, that's 6 figures. Your 6 figures is sitting right there. Your retirement is sitting right there. But discipline to sit down and look at it. The ones who do it make the money. The ones who don't do it and think about it and contemplate it and make a plan and watch a video, the problem is you'll sit down and go to write that list, and instead of writing that list, you watch 5 videos and you get hyped and then you don't get anything done. I'm guilty of doing that. So that's what we got for today. Tomorrow's chapter 3, If You're Not First, You're Last, by Grant Cardone. What else?
All right, that is it. If you guys haven't yet, you want to go to the Top Producer Show Facebook page and you want to go join that page. Also, go follow us on YouTube. Each one of these videos is going to be uploaded to there, so that way you could go back and rewatch them. So with that, that is what we have for you guys today, and we will see you tomorrow.